Well, to be honest, the aggression is on. Had a little bit of smack talk out of my opposition. Didn't know he was my opposition until we started, but looks like it's going to be a personal one for me.
This is AllReasonNoLogic's road to OS25. Let's follow Pradith's journey from starting skill rating 16 as he makes his way to rating 25 and beyond.
Welcome back to Pradith's Road to OS25, the series where AllReasonNoLogic's Pradith fights his way up the competitive ladder in Beyond All Reason. We're on episode 15 and today's match takes place on Sulphur Springs, a team game map where an alien landscape is visible on your screens. It's mostly flat terrain with shallow water cutting through a scattering landscape of hot geysers ripe for some geoplay. It's west versus south in this one, bit of a diagonal map. So expect some spicy angles and early pressure, especially in the bottom left hand corner of this playing field. This time Prey is joined by Tank Tom, who will be quite literally backing him up in what is sure to be chaotic showdown. Prey's open skill is sitting at 23.25 after a very modest 0.16 bump in the last episode. So let's see if this win gives him a bit more juice on that scoreboard. Prey and Tom, starting in that mentioned bottom corner, where the first action is sure to be seen. What's the tactics here, lads?
Well, to be honest, the aggression is on. Had a little bit of smack talk out of my opposition. Didn't know he was my opposition until we started, but looks like it's going to be a personal one for me. And that means it's going to, and because we're spawning in the starting closest positions, it's going to be instant aggression. Does look like I'm doing what I've been starting to get quite used to, which is starting out with those 5 ticks. Similarly, Tank Tom is going to be going up against something similar.
I've got a couple of pawns out because I didn't realize ticks can cross the water initially, and I've seen a few ticks running past here, but nothing too crazy at this stage.
Rovers in your case.
Yes. As for me, I've managed to find an undefended base, and the comm walked well out early to grab that initial mechs, and it's going to cost him. Using a fight command to try and keep my units reasonably far back, still probably going to lose a few just due to miss micro, maybe not, just a tiny bit of damage. But resetting the red player, this is a very rough start for them. I did think that I'd be able to hide behind the wind a little bit better, but still lost 2 there, and now going to try and split off and find another angle of attack.
Good early damage getting into that base.
Yes, unfortunately Ken will be reclaimed, so it's not the end of the world, it's just a bit of time, but it does give me a moment to get that little bit ahead. Unfortunately, a little bit of miss micro by me, leaving these ticks here while I'm back at the base macroing, and that miss timer is going to be just enough to let this LLT get up. I did try to take out the builder before it could get up, but unfortunately, just a bit of miss micro and then losing all 3 to the LLT. Just a little bit of work that needs to be done. Just have to make myself a little bit faster, increase that APM, and learn exactly how long it takes. Learn how long it takes for ticks to take things down. Still, this is a very good start for me. I am a little bit behind in the number. Well, I will be a little bit behind in the number of mexes because the red player is expanding out quite nicely. But going for the unit focus and just making sure that I have everything I need to move my comm forward and start building up all of the safety that I need to make that happen. Tank Tom managed to deflect those ticks.
He
and now what
actually.
is your... Pardon?
Sacrificed a couple of win to do it, but
Yeah,
that's fine. It's fine.
It's a bit of a trade, but definitely doing a lot more damage on the red player. And speaking of the red player, you've got another one of your players with some ticks. Not perfect micro, just staying AFK there, taking out 2 mexes though, and now playing a little bit of a dance with the commander who is down on energy.
But it's still enough to kill ticks overall, so the ticks have to stay split up. Good little bit of harass going on right here, really keeping this player off of their game. And look, they're going into a super early T3 lab up at a frontline T3 lab as well. This is not a decision I would be making. Sorry, T2 lab. Not a decision I would be making at the 4-minute mark in the game.
Especially off of 4 wind and 3 mexes.
Yes, especially after speaking smack at the beginning of this one. If you're interested to know exactly what they said, feel free to jump on in and grab that replay from the website. should give you a decent amount of knowledge of why I decided to be super aggressive non-stop in this one.
These
I'm looking to try
pawns,
and
if they're
keep the
getting
pressure on.
microed really well, they can beat the Rocketeers that even though they put out more damage, they obviously have that slow shot, and you can dodge those missiles. Taking out that build power, taking out that constructor really does some damage, and then retreating nicely. You can see just then even dodging that last missile, nicely done. That red player really would be regretting what he said at the start. We do have a little bit of a run by over here. Tank Tom's managed to do a lot of distraction with the yellow player, and another player has come behind. And I don't actually think there's enough here to defend against this. These whistlers don't put out much damage, and what's this lab at? 30%? We might see a lab go down. He's going for both the lab and the constructor at the same
That's
time.
greedy. That's super greedy. I like it. And it does look like it is going to pay off.
Yeah, using
as the pawns dealt damage, they also gained some levels and did just that little bit extra. That is a reset on the yellow player, as well as a lot of damage done to the red player. The red player did try to come up and do a counterattack with some donated units up the top left ramp and down onto the base, but it was cleaned up. Stop vote here, called by, I believe, the red team, not overly happy with how the start of this one has gone, and they wanted to back out and not take the OS loss.
But
you never know.
Think it looks like there's a bit of chat from the green player and no action happening in the base. It might be because a player has disappeared. We'll see what happens there. While that's happening, quick look around the map, and nice aggression from the green player in the water, but both players expanding out to get a lot of mexes, and then you can see that green player has disappeared and one of your other players has taken their base.
Yes, Teal's going to have a bit of a tough time with two of the spots. However, they are the two bases were next to each other, thankfully, so it is just like being one big combined base, and hopefully they'll be able to push back all of the damage that's happening in the middle. The red team doing a really good job pushing into that middle section and taking ground. Unfortunately, though, they're not overly supporting the close bottom side of the map. The red player doing a really good job with what they have, getting units out, managing to match me for at least a little while, but slowly taking more and more damage as I build up. My eco is significantly greater than theirs at the moment, and so even if they're spending all of that on units, they will fall behind reasonably shortly. Trying to get their comm in for a little bit of a D-gun. Hopefully I will grab those units. There we go. Grab those units and pull them back.
Constant harassment out of both. You can see Tom's still in the back line with pawns there.
Here we go, though.
These two frontline players. Yeah?
Oh, no, not quite. That LLT stopping me from attacking all of those Rocketeers. A little bit of miss micro by me because I'm taking on the comm up the top, but did pull the Rocketeers away to grab that comm. Unfortunately, though, this leaves a army disadvantage for me, so I'm going to back up and use the space that I have and the production that I have to build up the forces I need to get back on the offensive. If I were the red player, I'd be going straight into a Lazarus to eat all of this metal as quickly as possible. But for the time being, just seems like he wants that T2.
I'm just going to comment. What I'm seeing in the background here is your purple player looks like they're teching and handing out T2, which is fine. They've got the same happening for their pink player and their orange player. You've got an air player and they don't, so they have two techers plus your red player, your red opponent. He's going into that early T2, which has completely stalled his metal. And I mean, 3 chevs, I can understand it, but still that much experience you would expect with the smack talk at the start of the game. That's not happening, and you do have a big enough army here to take him on by the looks of things. So
there we go. Is asking for metal and energy to get that T2 transition running, and it does look like the space advantage has been enough for me to get the units I need to push back on this one. Once the pawns actually get in and start engaging these Rocketeers, it is going to be all over for them. They cannot match number for number when the pawns are in close and surrounding, and that is a huge amount of metal and also a lot nicely in range for me to actually take. Do reckon I'm about, Lazarus in the queue to come through and grab that. My comm is a little bit too weak for me to send on that front lines. took a lot of damage from the comm explosion.
Yeah, it's 1,950 metal on the front line there. Almost enough for a T2 lab on your own, but I dare say with this sort of advantage, you'd go just continue building units and get the win with where you can get it, and that is, yeah, you're up against, obviously, let's just check what your vision is like. You can't see heaps, but you know that there's not much
because
there.
all the action's been happening down here, there can't be much of an eco because we've gone through and killed what was there. What was it, like 3 times at this point?
Yeah, you've got no radar at this point in time, Tom, to see that there's quite an army right next to you. Two armies, in fact. You've got thugs from the cream player and the yellow player, a good combination of pawns and whistlers.
Battle
so definitely
paused.
enough to
Battle started.
overrun you. You do have a neighbor though with quite a force, so that might be enough to come and help you out.
I was largely trying to keep people off the top side of Prey. I knew all the action was happening down the bottom where I could. I'd push in and assist, but I was largely keeping anything above that river busy.
This answered one of my big questions of the match. There's a force of about 30 pawns coming in, and I did wonder where they all came from. As it turns out, they are a donation from other players. I was like, how on earth has this player that's been constantly harassing and building a T2 lab got so much to fight me with? Because I was expecting to come on through here and do pretty well, but unfortunately having to back off. My Rocketeer's getting out pretty well and skirmishing with these pawns, and I've got more pawns coming in to deflect this. There's an Arbiter shooting at me,
I was like, where's
but
that
it
coming
has
from?
been left quite well alone, and there is a big run through going through just above me during all of this. So while yellow did pull down to try and help red, it did leave them super vulnerable, and a big push has come through, destroying yellow's comm and breaking all the way through into pink as well.
That's the benefit of that constant pressure. If you do pull enemies to your front line, it often opens up another hole elsewhere. And if there's pressure against the whole front, it frees up your teammates to be able to make the most of those gaps.
You can see another dance with commanders and taking down 8 wins with that one pawn. Nicely done to that player. It's really great when you can just stop that line of sight for a unit. Getting like an LLT will not shoot through a wind farm. So if you've got an LLT, well, Tom, you're in a little bit of trouble there. Big pull of pawns.
Big
Still
pull
got
of
half my
pawns
health.
coming up there. But thankfully, those are not actually yellow's pawns. Those are brown's pawns. So again, you're fighting someone else's opponent, which means that, and because yellow is down fighting with me, a lot of whistlers here, so it's going to be a rough engage, but I'm sacrificing pawns in order to take out red's base, not knowing that they've left the game. They obviously were not very happy with my participation. Just backing off here and going to try and pincer these whistlers. Whistlers very strong, but also very slow.
A bombing run coming through. Unfortunately, going straight into a lane where there's flak. So
The one place that they
almost
could
no
have.
value. So if that player's watching, you've kept your bombers all together. Obviously, they were parked on the ground outside of your lab, and you've picked them up, and they've all been together. So when the flaks hit them, the area of effect of that flak is just taking them all down.
Jump into the yellow. Just jump into this combat. I've drawn the whistlers into the Rocketeers, and then I've got the pawns on where the whistlers have to retreat to, and so I'm going to box these in and completely take them out.
Right.
Definitely lose some units here, but because I've got the overwhelming area control, it does mean that I can grab what's left with Lazarus with the comm, and destroying this mobile siege force is absolutely huge. And then we do have some tanks coming in from the teal player who got that double eco, just coming here to consolidate this position and allow us to completely take over this bottom area. Does look like red and yellow, while playing really well and doing everything they possibly can with the units they have, the overwhelming aggression has just been too much, and the push and pull fronts have just picked them apart and allowed a lot of eco damage. One of the things that you'll note is through all of this, Tank Tom and I's ecos have just been expanding nice and gently, balancing units and production, and just making sure that, and because none of the all the fighting was happening in the opponent's bases, not in our bases, it meant that the damage was was heavily favoring them and allowed us to get that nice scaling difference.
A little bit more wind. A shuriken trying to help you guys out down south there. What I was saying about the areas, you want to spread out bombers before going in for a bombing run so that you're not affected by that area of effect. And yellow base going down and a resign vote called. Is that going to be the end of the game already? Surely not.
I don't think this one's quite the end. We still have enough players that want to fight this one out. If you do look at the middle of the map, it is mostly controlled by the cream player, who's taken a huge amount of control, is really pushing back into those areas. Lilac doesn't have too much, and then it's only the air player. So I think one of the biggest contributing factors that's going to win this one is that our navy is also doing very well. The dark green player is pushed right into the maroon navy, and so that two-side pinch is going to be really tough for them, even though they control that middle quite dominantly.
Yeah, the other advantage
During
you
this-
guys seem to have is that air as well. You do have the air just in case there is a big leak. I'm sure with that eco that the air players got going into T2, they could get out some gunships and go and save the day at pretty much any point. You are up against T2 here by the looks of things.
Yeah, there's only a handful though, and I'm not super worried. I've been playing. People who have been watching the series are probably aware that I swapped from Cortex to Armada, and I've swapped from a vehicle focus to a bots focus. Part of that, I think, is because at the moment the pawn is just very, very powerful. It doesn't really have a counter. The grunt is just not a counter for it anymore.
Even with the patch recently, they increased the build time of the pawn, but if you build one constructor to assist the lab, that literally cancels out that rush. So yes, in 1v1s, it's probably helped with the balancing of pawns versus grunts, but in these team games, I think I'd love to see the grunt get some of its range back. I think it was like 30 more than what it currently is now, maybe even more. So if we got maybe a 15 increase in that range, I reckon that would be the sweet spot to getting the bots back on par with each other.
Yes, since I moved to a grunt focus strategy instead of since I moved to a pawn focus strategy instead of a grunt focus strategy, I've been on a 100% win rate, which I think definitely has something to do with that balance. But also, I'm just getting a lot more comfortable with using bots. They're faster and their DPS is very high for their metal value. And so if you engage smartly and if you fight at the right times, you really can take on vehicles quite easily, and that res bot is just such an important part of that as well. Every combat that I won here was followed by a massive spike in metal, and it's why even though I stayed on T1 for quite a long time, now that I'm on that T2, my ability to produce is massive. I've got 9 constructors, though I've built my lab in the wrong place. Shush. And I've got a large army in the front. I'm scaling the eco and getting ready to make another push and then run through the line at the bottom. Now that the players that were intending to play very forward-centric have been knocked out, there's now a lot of room to push in and just crush whatever is left. T2 defense here for the pink player is a very strong defensive unit, but isn't the best against crowds, and so all of these grunts could be a big problem, but that is the resign vote. With the lilac player swinging through and taking out a lot of the eco through the top, and with the bottom half fallen and the navy falling, the red team has decided to back out of this one. Let's have a quick look at those stats in there. One of the things really worth noting is the damage efficiency for myself, 186%, and that was because of allowing my units to build up fighting at the right times. And then also the scaling of the energy produced and the metal produced compared to the red player. A lot of that is just the reclaim and also, winning the lane. Having a quick look at those graphs because they tell a really nice story on this one. The damage dealt really, really high. The teal player did do very, very well, but you can see that big boost of damage when they picked up that second base.
Yeah,
having 2 bases worth of eco allows for a lot of units. You can also see Tank Tom fighting near constantly through all of that, backing everything up, and allowing for all of those pushes to happen and holding, giving me the free time to push on through from that bottom side.
Hey, you finished on the top metal produced as well, and just to show people that is the importance of the resbot. Reclaim runs this game throughout Frontlines. So get those resbots out, even if you've got constructors, your commander, or anything. Get that metal back in your bank rather than your opponents. That's how you win these games that are fought early.
Very much so, and then just keep pushing. I certainly could have pushed a lot harder in some of the places, but that is something that you need scouting information for, and I just did not have enough of it at the time, and so I played a little bit cautiously where I definitely could have pushed in. I could have crushed red a little bit earlier, and I definitely could have pushed into pink before consolidating, and dark pink before consolidating my units like I did. But at the end of the day, was a good, strong game from all, and the weaknesses on our team certainly covered by that huge amount of aggression in the bottom left corner of the map, keeping everyone on their toes and having to bring units to bear down there.
Yeah, nicely played. All right, Prey, that was a great one. A real good push out of the both of you two. And I believe a little bit of an improvement on the OS there. This one going from 0.16 last game, you actually got a whole point this game. Thanks to
Yes,
your
point.
high uncertainty and jumping you all the way up to, I think it was 24.25.
24.25 it is. So I am now right on the cusp of that OS 25. Question is, am I going to win my next match? Because if I do, I very much so could be that magic OS 25 number, but I've been on quite the win streak now, so the nerves are racking up, and I might be in the barrels for a loss. So you'll have to jump in to the next one to find out whether or not we make it to that mythical OS 25. If my journey as a new player is complete, and I can start jumping into those pro lobbies.
That's it. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for watching. Please do hit that subscribe below and see you for episode 16.
Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.